Imagine having a superpower but spending your whole life trying to hide it. That's what happens when INFPs reject their introverted feelings. I'm sure that you've felt before like that war between your head and your heart. Your logic is pointing out, you got to go this direction. But deep down, something just doesn't sit right. And that's the story of my life when I was trying to come up with the names for the functions that I use within the RPG model. One side of me, the introverted thinking aspect, what I call the adept, it wanted everything to be precise, to be accurate, to be logically sound. I've spent a decade studying personality type, and it wanted me to encapsulate all that. But my FI, my soul, kept saying, no, this word doesn't capture the essence, the feeling of what I want to invoke. Does that sound familiar to you? I remember trying to become a robot because I was told so many times that feelings are bad. And that's not the case. If TI, introverted thinking, becomes too present in your life, it can take the spotlight of your life story. It's like watching a movie and instead of the hero's arc, you're just watching the villain's arc the whole time, despite it being a movie about the hero. If you do that too much, if you focus too much on that, you lose your personal connection to your choices. And if FI, introverted feeling, takes over and doesn't listen to any of the other judging functions, then it might feel like you're stuck. You're chasing emotional perfection or some essence without practical results. It just feels right. And that's good, but it's also exhausting, right? So how can you integrate these without forcing a shutdown, without having too much conflict that you just don't even know what to do and you give up? Well, here's the good news. You don't need to choose one over the other. Now, you're naturally going to want to give more weight to certain ones, but instead of just saying, I'm only going to do introverted feeling, you can integrate your values and your logic, getting things done, peopling, into a system that truly works for you. And honestly, while the process isn't easy, it started to really click for me when I was trying to think of the names for the cognitive functions. It showed me the importance of TI precision, as well as the importance of FI connection to individuality. So let me break this down a little bit more. Naming the functions wasn't just about picking a good, rational definition or name. It was also about honoring the emotional resonance behind each one. It was about the essence that the soul or introverted feeling demanded. So introverted feeling doesn't just want a good word. It wants the word that conveys all of that importance. It wants a name that pulls at your very essence, that paints the perfect emotional picture. But TI, it wants a clean framework. It wants universality. It wants logical sense. It wants everybody to be able to see the word and look up the definition and completely understand what that is. So when I was coming up with these names, I found myself frozen in indecision. My ENTP partner at the time, the classic TI-NE problem solver, he stepped up and said, this is the word. And I said, interesting. Are you sure? And it's like, yes, this is the correct word. And logically, they were right. Some of the names that they suggested were precise and technically accurate. And we were doing game designing at the time too. And he's like, this is the direction we should go because this makes the most sense. But even now, I sometimes feel a little twinge of conflict. Not because that the word is wrong or anything like that, but because they don't fully capture the essence that my FI, my soul, wanted to invoke. And I've since changed some of the names. And it wasn't about whether the term itself was right or wrong, or correct or incorrect. It was about whether it invoked this specific feeling that I was searching for. And somehow, every once in a while, I'm like, is that really the right choice? Will it ever go away? I'm not sure. But I found a balance. TI, the adept, and FI, the soul, aren't adversaries. They're complementary players in the same system. TI will refine and sharpen your ideas. FI ensures that those ideas are deeply meaningful and true to who you are. Together, they create this transformative balance, this balance between distilled creativity and emotional richness. And that's the power of integration. In naming the functions, I started seeing the bigger picture, that the name itself didn't need to be perfect. It needed to invite growth. It needed to be inspiring. When somebody read the word and said, I'm an INFJ, which is the unifying mystic. Yeah, right? The innovating soul, INFP. ENTP, the analyzing explorer. Like, I wanted that to resonate and feel inspiring. And that's where introverted feeling and introverted thinking can work together, is to find a word that fits, or a strategy, a framework that fits, and then FI infuses it with life. But it's important to know that embracing this balance also means accepting imperfection. FI will want absolute alignment with your inner values, with that essence that you want to convey. And TI will want absolute logical coherence. But the problem is, you won't have either. And that's okay, because when you let go of the need for perfection and to be perfect, then you start to see that the beauty is in that integration, that dance between both. And that contrast can give it depth, can be helpful. And it's also important because when you make a decision, you can cite from different sources. If you've pulled from your TI, okay, I did some research and I know that this is technically the most accurate word, but it didn't convey this aspect that I thought was really important. So for me, it was realizing that the emotional resonance that FI created and wanted can't exist without some sort of framework that TI can provide. And also sometimes TI users can benefit a lot from seeing that it's not just the logical word, but there's painted nuance within each of those words. The word itself conveys all these different feelings and emotions. And it's important to be aware of those too. So whether you're naming concepts, or you're making tough decisions, or you're deciding which paintbrush to use, or some sort of which color to use, how to write this story, trust the battle between the two. Know that it's shaping something, and it's a matter of bouncing back and forth between those until you get one of them as the clearer winner, and going from there. And you can always change it after. So now when I think back to all the energy and years and time and effort that I spent agonizing over those names, even if they don't fully satisfy FI's need for the perfect color match or the perfect expression of it, they have shaped something meaningful for me. And that's the lesson that I wanted to share, is that they're showing which direction to go, and they're kind of like defining what is important to you. And that helps you refine the truth of who you are and the thing that you want to convey. I say this quite often, but the world doesn't need you to be a TP or a TJ or an FJ. The world needs you to be an INFP. And as an INFP, we spend a lot of time feeling through how we feel about things. If something is good, if something is bad, do we like it? Do we dislike it? And we also have this superpower with being able to find other people's processes and how they do things within us. Like, if an ESTJ does something, I might disagree with it, but I can say, I could see why he would do that. And that ability to do that allows us to have a remarkable problem-solving ability with endless creativity and the desire to make every single person feel felt. And our TI or TE or FE or adept, commander, or envoy are never going to have as much XP, be as high leveled as our soul. And that's okay, because it's important that we use them as advisors and make sure that we're not blind to any one perspective. And this creates harmony, and it creates something that no one else can. So if you want to start the journey of understanding more about your personality type as an INFP, I want you to go to inowfeelpositive.com and get the free 5-day INFP personality type tutorial. It'll teach you some of these words that I've used for naming the cognitive functions, as well as how to use them better throughout your daily life. And if you want to learn more about introverted thinking and introverted feeling and more of the technical understanding of them, as well as my feelings about some of the descriptions, you can check out these videos over here. See you there.